call us to order, if we wouldn't mind. Before we get started, I'd like to identify whoever's on the phone calling in. Hello?
Yeah, this is Terry Barnard's here.
Anyone else? Is that it? Okay. So Mr. Barnard's on the phone for now. Let's go ahead and move forward. I'd like to ask our General Counsel, Mr. Knox, please start the invocation for us.
Let us pray. Father, thank you for this day. Thank you for your blessings. Thank you for your people. We ask for your blessings in this day. Give us wisdom. Give us understanding. Give us direction. In Jesus' name we pray.
Amen.
Everybody,
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Did we hear someone else call in?
You did. It's Brian Owens.
All right. Thank you,
City
Mr. Owens.
Fitzgerald is on the line as well. Good morning.
Morning. Okay, so first order of business, I'd like to recognize we have a new board member, Mr. Tyrone Oliver from the Department of Juvenile Justice. So if everyone just say hello to him after the meeting. If you don't know him, please make sure you introduce yourself and help him out if he needs anything. Just want to welcome him. He's going to need some help with it. I'd like to go ahead and ask for approval of the agenda for today. Everybody? Okay. I have a motion and a second. All in favor? Any opposed? And everyone should have had an opportunity to look at the minutes beforehand, but if not, I'd like for everybody to take about a minute or so and please review those. And I'd ask for a motion after that.
Mr. Chairman, I move to approve the minutes as presented.
Second.
Having a motion and a second, does anybody have any questions or any amendments? All in favor, accept the minutes?
Aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, so the minutes are done. So Mr. Commissioner report, Mr. Nail.
Well, thank you. Good morning to the board and welcome, Commissioner Oliver. Glad to have you and look forward to working with you in your new role. I know we've met on previous occasions, so I'll spare the sympathies and all that stuff. I know folks have done that, but you're going to be the right individual for the position. We're proud to work alongside you. So welcome, sir. I figured I'd start out this morning by just giving a brief budget update. I did math, and nothing from nothing leaves nothing. Anyway, we've got as you know, mandated, just like other state agencies, a 4% cut and then a additional 2% the following year. We have rolled out a video budgeting message to staff. We begin in October having, or we'll have our allotment removed from our budget. So we had to move kind of quick. We froze positions until we could solidify our plan that we sent over to be approved. The good news is we're going to be able to start releasing those positions back. I will tell you we had to streamline our operations, but you know, it's a good thing. I think sometimes it's good to be forced to take a hard look at your processes, and we took the charge seriously about improving and being more effective and efficient. And the way I phrase it is having a positive paradigm shift. Matter of fact, this mandate actually gives us the opportunity to do some things that we were wanting to do. And I think that's exactly the direction of the governor's office. I was very candid with staff and said that it's going to be difficult, and I wish it would be pain-free, but it's not. But at this time, it does look like we're in a position that no one will be going home, and we do not plan to utilize furloughs. So I shared with staff that, you know, furloughing and getting rid of employees, that's not really innovation to help you keep doing your work. But with that said, there are many state agencies that quite candidly I don't think have any other choice when you look at the majority of their budget being personal services. But it is a good opportunity for us to right-size the ship, if you will, and we're going to continue to do that. I appreciate the cooperation with State Board of Pardons and Paroles and Commissioner Ward. We have taken our transitional officers that were in each transition center. We know statutorily our responsibility is to supervise offenders directly. For the courts and the State Board of Pardons and Paroles, we have transferred those officers, or will October 1, to caseload carrying officers back into the field. And I appreciate the cooperation and the support, but we've got to stay focused on our core mission. And then we have met with those staff and shared that with them, and I want to applaud their efforts and the way they have received this. Also, we had a meeting earlier this week with our expansion sites of the Georgia Prison Reentry Initiative, and there are a host of housing coordinators and in-reach specialists and a few of our faith-based providers that we will not be expanding to those sites, and we will between now and April placing them on positions that they will be eligible for. In the meantime, we've set aside those positions from our lapse factor or our vacancies, and that too was a difficult time for them, but they understand the climate we're operating in. So we're leaning forward. We're going to take the positive approach to it and take advantage of this opportunity to really get things headed in the not the right direction, but an even better direction. So I wanted to update you on that portion of it. Any questions about the budget before I move on? Okay, thank you. And I will share also that even though we'll be releasing positions to the field, we have several positions in central office that we will not be filling. We will continue to hold those. So we too are going to accept the challenge and find different ways. We have some pending retirements in central office that we plan to hold those positions open as well. So it's across the board, and I just wanted the board here to certainly understand that. As far as legislative update, we will not be submitting any legislation this year, so I wanted to make you aware of that. Good day yesterday. We had our DCS annual awards, and it was just a wonderful day. We had Lieutenant Governor Jeff Duncan as our keynote speaker. Attorney General Chris Carr provided closing remarks, and it was a great day of celebration. And despite what's going on, whether it's the budget, whether it's high caseloads, we should never, ever, ever miss an opportunity to celebrate our staff. They do a wonderful job day in and day out, and it was just a really, really good day. We have one employee that got their 40 years of faithful service. Speaks to her dedication. So Marsha Hopkins. So I figure 40 years, she deserves some special recognition. Although I had one question for her. Why? But if you know Marsha, you know her dedication and commitment. So it was really, really a good day. Next month, we'll start our charitable campaign contributions. We'll continue to keep you updated on those. Hats off to Sherry Chambers for taking on that again, as well as coordinating yesterday's ceremony. We do have a basic graduation next Thursday. It's a smaller class. We're getting to the point where we were operating fuller classes, but as you start to stabilize your staff, the classes will get smaller. I believe we have an individual from Pardons and Paroles in there. So we're happy when we've got spot to reach out to our partners and say, come on. It doesn't cost us a dime to have one or two more people in that class, and I think that's just good business. We last week had the opportunity to brief Kelly Farr from OPB and Melissa Motes, who's over the Public Safety Division. I'd met with Kelly probably 2 months ago, and he was interested in looking at our IT delivery system, also training, and also our strategic planning process. But I actually met with him for about 2 hours last week, and it was a very fruitful conversation. I want to commend Phil Sellers on showing and displaying where we are with our IT initiatives, and also where we're headed with our IT initiatives. But it was a very, very good meeting. We will probably be deploying next week from a field operation perspective our personal notification emergency panic buttons. I don't want to go into all the details of it, but let me tell you, doing this work a long time, and that's the one thing that'll keep you up at night, is making sure that if your officers are in a bind, they can get help quick. And sometimes there's not time to call 911. So this system that the staff has worked on will give the officers availability to simply press a button. And not only will it doesn't go just to one person, but numerous individuals, and the protocol is in the process of being established. But that's been a long time coming, and I'm glad to see that come to fruition for our team out there. And speaking of panic alarms, Sarah's one of the newest members on the team, been with us for several months, and one of our employee orientations, we failed to tell her, don't press this button, that's a panic button. So I want to commend our friends at State Boards and Parties and Parole for the response time this morning. I thought we were being invaded, but they were coming through the door to our rescue, and I want to say thank you. And Rick Jacobs said that's the most exercise he has received in a month. So after he sat down, we gave him some water, but no, I think in jest, there's a lot to be said about that when you talk about the partnership, and having the confidence that our teammates are going to be there for us, and we're going to be there for them. So in all seriousness, I do appreciate that, and I know our team does as well. So if there's nothing else, sir, that will conclude my remarks. Absent any questions.
Just a comment.
Yes.
You know, I really appreciate how DCS pauses to recognize their employees who've been doing it all the time. And we know it's three things: people, strategy, and operation. If you don't have the people right, everything else doesn't matter. So
Absolutely.
Thanks for recognizing the team and valuing the work that they do.
Thank you. It's an awesome team, and I'm just proud to be part of it. All right. Thank you all very much. Yes, sir. Yes, we're going to handle that when Mike Kraft does his report and comes up. As a matter of fact, we can go ahead and transition to that now. If you're good with that.
Yes,
Perfect.
sir. Please.
Mike Kraft has served on our Commission of Family Violence, and we wanted to take time. As you know, Jennifer Thomas is now over at Criminal Justice Coordinating Council and no longer at the Commission on Family Violence, but she has done phenomenal work. And when you look at leaving things better than when you found it, she has done that. And Mike has served as our liaison on that commission, and I thought it'd be appropriate if he presents on behalf of the department a resolution to Jennifer Thomas. So Jennifer, if you'll come on up, please.
Jennifer, it truly is my honor to do this. Whereas founded on the tenets of public safety and progress, the Georgia Department of Community Supervision commenced operations July 1st, 2015 through the passage of House Bill 310, and the Georgia Commission on Family Violence was attached for administrative purposes. Whereas, due to her great passion for advocacy and notable professional contributions, Jennifer Thomas was appointed the Executive Director for the Georgia Commission on Family Violence and leveraged her role to build lasting partnerships that will positively impact communities for years to come. Whereas, Jennifer Thomas's studied leadership was made evident in the numerous officer training initiatives, legislative accomplishments, and intervention programs that were successfully implemented during her tenure. Furthermore, Jennifer became a stabilizing force for victims and has positioned the Commission to be an innovative presence in the field of family violence intervention. Whereas, the legacy of Jennifer Thomas's service is best witnessed by her unwavering advocacy for the underserved and vulnerable populations. Accordingly, the hallmark of Jennifer's service will be best characterized by her honest integrity, solutions-oriented leadership, and countless lives that she changed for the better. Therefore, be it hereby resolved, the undersigned members of the Board of Community Supervision desire to commend the distinguished contributions of Jennifer Thomas for her outstanding service to the Georgia Department of Community Supervision and the employees thereof. Signed this day, September 2019. Congratulations, Jennifer.
I have enjoyed my time with you all, and might stop by from time to time, you never know. So I appreciate it, so thank you.
And Jeff, we are far, we're gonna get a picture, but we are much better off, as a result of you and your leadership.
Got one more. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for being here.
All right, and then just briefly, before I sit back down, being that there's not a report from the Commission on Family Violence, I did want to mention that the Georgia Commission on Family Violence held its annual training last week in Athens, and it was a great success. A lot of people got a lot of great training and heard a lot of speakers from throughout the nation. And at that conference, April Ross was named as the incoming executive director for the Commission on Family Violence. So if there's no questions at that note, I will sit down. Questions?
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mike.
Good morning. Mr. Nail mentioned that we had an award ceremony yesterday, so I have to admit that I have received a lot of blowback from my presentation. I've been ragged on a lot this morning. Apparently I forgot how to pronounce inhalation twice, not just once, twice. So I might be a little nervous as I'm reading these notes, but I pray that I don't mispronounce something today. But first I'd like to recognize a very invaluable employee to DCS. Pam Thrift, if you would please come up. For brevity's sake, I'll go ahead and start reading my notes. Pam Thrift was instrumental in two major multi-agency operations this year. One being Southern Impact, which took place from April 30th through May 2nd. This operation was led by GBI's ICAC Task Force on Sex Offenders, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force. 40 local, state, and federal agencies participated. DCS alone conducted 1,153 searches, which resulted in 93 arrests, 8 firearms, and other contraband were seized. The second operation was Safe Summer, which was the entire month of May. This was an FBI-led sex offender compliance operation in 5 metro Atlanta counties. CSOs alone conducted 906 compliance checks, which resulted in 14 arrests. Pornographic material, drugs, and evidence of victim communication was discovered. Pam maintained statistics during these operations and also represented DCS in the State Operations Center at GEMA during Hurricane Dorian. Pam, congratulations and a sincere thank you for your efforts. And I have this leadership coin to give you.
David, if you could sit down.
Trying to avoid that.
I know, that's why I called you out. Thank you.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Commissioner Nail and Mr. Kraft mentioned the Commission on Family Violence. And Jennifer, she's still in the room?
She just left.
Okay. I was going to brag on us a little bit. September 6th through the 7th, we participated in the second Operation Purple Ribbon in Dalton. And this was a compliance check on 27 individual cases that were court-ordered to complete, resolve classes, and/or attend domestic violence accountability court. Over the course of the operation, 12 individuals were taken into custody for violations of the release conditions. 4 of these were arrested for victim contact, 3 of which were hiding the victim in the residence when the officers arrived. An additional 5 had warrants issued on them or were flagged as needing further investigation, and 11 were found to be using drugs or alcohol. Only 9 were in compliance. Items seized during this operation were 60 grams of marijuana, a distribution quantity of powder cocaine, which Dalton PD filed charges, multiple bags of marijuana and joints, small quantities of amphetamines, and drug paraphernalia. Again, this was the second operation of the Purple Ribbon, and last year, DCS won the Georgia Commission on Family Violence annual award for that operation, so very successful. On Saturday, September 14th, 19 officers from DCS assisted during the white supremacy protest and counter-protest with Antifa in Delonica. A total of about 500 officers were present from different agencies, and fortunately, no major issues occurred. We did participate in the Hurricane Dorian response. When we asked for volunteers, we had over 100 names within 2 hours. So we were ready to go. 53 DCS officers were deployed, and we participated in the GEMA State Operations Center in Atlanta, evacuation assistance in Savannah, shelter security in Augusta, and shelter security in Macon. We're currently working on Halloween operation preparations. With that, as every year, increased field interactions, residents of record searches, guidance regarding conducting conduct like no decorations, no candy, etc., and also reporting for counseling. All circuits will submit a plan and then do a follow-up plan following the operation for back briefing. And I'm excited to mention that we are working on community service enhancements. We're working on new policy, training, IT modules being in place, and also a ramped up focus from senior leadership. And in closing, moving towards a more time-based supervision formula and module, which will provide more quality interactions based on risk and needs, and there will be more to come on that as far as our offender supervision. So without further questions, I will have a seat.
Any questions? Thank you for your
Thank
report. Ms. Stanley?
Good morning.
Good morning.
I would like to share a bit of my time with one of the Respect to Recovery Institute speakers. Before I give my comments, I'm going to invite Ginger Thomas to come up and share her story. I'm going to move from not giving her introduction and allow for that to be shared during her story.
Good morning.
Good morning.
I really appreciate you all letting me be here this morning to share my testimony. My name is Ginger Goolsby Thomas, and I'm a recovering addict. I am the middle child of Bobby and Sherry Goolsby. I have an older brother and a younger sister. Growing up, my parents were upper middle class. My dad, along with my grandfather, owned 13 local grocery stores called Goolsby Foods in Columbus, Georgia, where I was born and have lived my whole life. The good fortune of my father's hard work allowed us to travel and take amazing family vacations. Hawaii, Jamaica, Jackson Hole, Wyoming, Colorado, and Yellowstone, to name a few. I grew up very loved, cared for, and wanted. We ate dinner every night as a family, went to church every Sunday, and most Wednesday night suppers. Both parents came to all of mine and my siblings' dance recitals, football and soccer games, and swim meets. My mom was always involved in PTA and my Brownie and Girl Scout troops. At a very young age, it was quite apparent to my parents and others that I was a high-spirited child. I was and am extremely hyper. I ran everywhere I went and couldn't sit still to save my life. When I would have to for school, car rides, and church, I would have these extreme hot feeling pains in my stomach, which we in later years realized it was anxiety. My parents were wonderfully patient and understanding because they knew I couldn't help it. By third grade, they had done their research and took me to a doctor here in Atlanta where I underwent rigorous testing and was diagnosed ADHD and put on Ritalin for school. This, of course, was in the 80s, so not many people knew or understood ADHD, including some of my teachers. I was labeled bad, talkative, and disruptive, and was made a lot of times to sit in a desk out in the hall where kids would walk by, stare, or laugh. I remember feeling very disconnected, ashamed, and like something was wrong with me. I was embarrassed. My parents did what they could and took me to counselors and psychiatrists. I can remember getting a workbook from one of them that I did with my dad. It was called I Like Myself Because. As you can probably imagine, my school years didn't get too much better. I struggled. My saving grace was a trait I inherited from my dad, my funny, outgoing, silly, big personality. I learned that if I would be funny and make fun of myself first, then I took the opportunity for someone else to. It seemed to really work. I was pretty well liked, outgoing, and a friend to everyone, and the very funny girl. In hindsight, I didn't realize that by making a joke of myself, I had started an inner monologue that was very mean, critical, harsh, and hurtful. I have battled and still do to this day to change that inner voice to one that's kind, uplifting, and loving to myself. It's a process. Even though I can make people laugh and I felt disconnected, not good enough, and like nobody ever liked me as much as I liked them. I continued on my medication, Ritalin, through elementary and middle school. I believe we tried some different things, including antidepressants, in high school. By my junior year, I had a complete breakdown that landed me in a mental health facility for some inpatient and outpatient treatment. That was a rough year, 1994. My first love, high school sweetheart, had broken up with me, and one of my best girlfriends was accidentally fatally shot. It was in that facility that I was diagnosed bipolar as well, and so began the up and down cycle of my life. I had tried pot when I was 16, and at the age of 19, I snorted meth for the first time. Instantly, I found what I thought I'd been looking for all those years. It bypassed my depression and low self-esteem. It gave me tons of energy to clean, hang out, do projects, and get things accomplished, which made me feel good about myself. Man, did it trick me. While I was so busy going, I didn't realize the lack of connection and lack of emotion. I became incapable of true feelings other than sadness, shame, and guilt, and as soon as I would start to feel those feelings, I would get high and boom, up and running off the charts, manic state again. With me already being hyper, I was a force to be reckoned with. Even other addicts couldn't handle being around me at times, which just drove my already low self-esteem lower again, wondering what is wrong with me. At this time, age 19, I met my son's father. He was 24 and in college for his bachelor's degree. He seemed to have his stuff together, so I jumped on his coattails to get out of my parents' strict and loving ways. We had some good times and some bad. Not long after being together, he tried meth for the first time. He was 24, me 19. For 10 plus years, we were weekend warriors, occasional users, at times going a few years without using anything. He never knew how to handle my mental health issues and was very high-strung and impatient with me, which gave me terrible anxiety. He thought he could bully me out of depression, calling me lazy and other names. I was constantly starting and stopping my meds, which would cause me to bottom out, then self-medicate with meth, coke, or ecstasy. We decided to get married in 2004, and I got pregnant with my son, Jackson, the following year, 2005. I was 28. We had bought our first home, and I was so happy to be a mom. Even though his dad and I never were the right fit all those years, I was happier than I'd ever been because I had my precious baby boy. Let me tell you, there has never been a better mom to a child other than my mom than I was to mine. For the first 5 years, his dad and I were completely drug-free. I was a happy mom with the sweetest child. I got a minivan. My son and I did mother's morning out groups, play dates, and library story times. Then when Jackson was about 6 years old, I ran into an old friend and smoked some pot. Wasn't long after that, I guess, we started partying here and there. That only fueled the anger and disconnect his dad and I had. Things started declining rapidly. I was anxious and worried, trying to shield Jackson from hearing his dad yell all the time when he got home. He was always ill. When I realized what it was doing to my son, I called my parents and said, "That's it, I'm filing for divorce and we are coming to live with you." I had been in a relationship for 20 years, so I went a little crazy. Started leaving my son while he was asleep at my parents' house and sneaking out, doing more and more drugs. One of those times I met a much older man who lived in a shed out in Alabama. I was pretty broken down, and he was the first guy to treat me nice and really like me. Found out later he cooked meth. So I ran away from my parents' house, leaving my son to go live in a shed in Crawford, Alabama. It was the dead of summer, no air conditioner or running water, not even a toilet. I lived like that for 3 months until it got unbearable. I contacted my estranged husband, who also had spiraled down even worse, asked if me and the guy could come stay with him at our old house. He agreed, we moved in, and dope was flowing freely, which fueled huge fights with my son's father and ended up leading to physical violence. Police were called, stay-away orders were put in place. I went back to my parents' home, tried to do good, but couldn't leave the dope alone. I started sneaking out and stealing from them to support my habit. Around 2015, I stole my dad's credit card to buy people gas in exchange for dope. I started sneaking around, breaking the stay-away order with my son's dad because he was the only one that would come pick me up at night, and he had dope. My dad's card was stolen from me, used by other people. The card company notified my dad, and they had pictures of the subject using the card. To his surprise, it was his own daughter. I was arrested with a felony, served 2 months in Muscogee County Jail, and given probation. I later failed a UA for marijuana. I was given DRC. At that time, I was staying at a known drug house. I was spiritually bankrupt, exhausted, skinny as a rail, and completely hopeless. I felt dead already, but God had a plan. I knew I would never make it through the program living where I was at, so I packed my bag, called my mom, begged her to let me come home so I could get through the program and hopefully change my life. My dad was rightfully so, not wanting me back, as he was very hurt and didn't want to enable me in any way. I was different. They could see that. I jumped into trying to rebuild relationship with my son, who was distant and guarded. I followed all of my parents' rules and the rules of the DRC. My mother took me and picked me up every day while in the program. I embraced it wholeheartedly. I was so ready for change. I learned more about my disease, my triggers, a routine, accountability, and to set goals. I started to feel great. I became the golden child of the DRC program, a person that the officers and facilitators used to talk to and motivate the new intakes. I showed people how to have fun in recovery. I rededicated my life to Christ and gave my testimony in the church I grew up in. I got very involved in going to NA meetings. They were my saving grace. Many times I went to 2 a day, anything to stay clean. For the first time in my life, I was so proud of myself, and everyone around me was too, especially my family. I was now addicted to recovery. I had some bumps in the road, but it just ran me further into bettering my life. I never dreamed life could be this good. At 42, my life is just getting started. After a long, hard road with my 14-year-old son, I finally have him with me, happy, healthy, and thriving. I have the love of my life, who is also in recovery, a wonderful man who has been the biggest blessing to me and my son's life. He loves me like I've always wanted to be loved. He is a true gift from God. We just rented our first apartment. He landed his dream job. We both obtained our driver's licenses, have our own insured transportation. I am working a server job at an upscale Italian restaurant called Trivoli's, which I really enjoy. And at the end of this month, I will be going to training to become a certified peer specialist. I am so passionate about recovery and am excited to work in the recovery mental health field. My ultimate goal is to work as a CPS for the DRC, from which I'm told they are waiting on me. I am the happiest I've ever been. I'm a good mother, daughter, sister, aunt, friend, and girlfriend. I volunteer and help anytime, anywhere that I can and am asked to. I love my life, and I'm so thankful for God's grace and mercy and for a loving family that never gave up on me. We do recover. Thank you.
Thank you, Ginger, so much for sharing your testimony and your story with us and reminding us just what you do every day. So we continue to be with you on your walk of recovery. Just a few other highlights from Reentry Services. We're currently partnering with the American Probation Parole Association, the Urban League, as well as the Center for Court Innovation for a Procedural Justice Project. This project is the first of its kind in community supervision, and they actually reached out to us for us to partner with them. That pilot program is taking place in 5 circuits within the state: Northeastern, Chattahoochee, Douglas, Cherokee, and Tallapoosa. We had 42 staff that came to a training on the 10th of this month to start this process for community supervision. We also have an employment initiative ongoing with Consolidated Container Company as well as Goodyear. in Stockbridge and Social Circle. We began working with them about hiring those that we serve, so those would be two extremely proud partnerships that we'll be able to add to the number of resources we have. A few community collaborations. In Clayton County, we hosted a resource fair on the 27th of August, and we had 4 employers on site that actually hired 16 individuals that showed up during the resource fair. And that project was actually put together by a very new community coordinator. She's actually only been in that role in 60 days, so we were extremely proud to see the amount of community partners that showed up on that day, and more importantly, those individuals that were able to walk out with employment. Also in Stone Mountain Circuit, the community coordinator continues to ensure that those recently released receive comprehensive health care. We had 200 newly released individuals receive health care to address their health concerns in the community. Also, Vision, Inc. continues to put on healthcare first in the office, where they're providing blood pressure screenings, diabetes screening, substance abuse screening. They're helping with food stamps and also connecting those individuals with prescription drugs that are needed for their continued success while transitioning back in the community. Also, we have a partnership that we've started with Clifton Sanctuary Ministry in Progress, which is to help with homeless individuals that's 35 years and older, males. They're able to provide housing, 3 meals a day, showers, as well as access to clothing for up to 60 days. In the Okmulgee Circuit, which is also one of our new expanded areas, we had a community coordinator to partner with the Middle Georgia Community Food Bank, and we was able to serve 145 families in the Milledgeville area. Lastly, from a community coordination, Lee Robbins, our community coordinator, was recognized during pretrial probation, parole, and supervision week by American Parole and Probation and Supervision for his outstanding work that he does in his community, going beyond the call of duty that he does, for being innovative in his approach to reentry services. And that nomination was submitted by one of his community partners in Gwinnett County. Lastly, with our housing updates, we currently have our fall RPH provider cycle that started on the 1st. Those trainings will begin in October, and we're looking to have those trainings in Decatur, Gainesville, and Perry. And our locations are typically chosen based on where we get the most applications from, but we try and ensure that we're throughout the state during that process. Lastly, we brought on a provider in Johnson County, and this actually allowed us to be in every judicial circuit. So we now have RPH providers in every judicial circuit, bringing our total to 41, and it has allowed us to continue to place roughly an average of 100 individuals in RPH. But what we're most proud of is our 2 new sex offender programs. As we've talked in meetings before, that continues to be a population that we need services for. So we've been able to bring on 2 homes that will serve up to 8 individuals in DeKalb County, and we continue to work, of course, to try and meet that need for that population. Any questions for me?
Thank you for your report.
Thank you.
Neville?
Good morning.
Morning.
Misdemeanor Oversight is excited to announce that we are on our last leg of audits, with only 13 compliance audits left to complete for the calendar year. We've currently reviewed 3,878 cases. We currently have 75 providers, 51 of them are governmental, 24 are private. We have 975 employees with 791 service agreements. So to date, we have hosted 15 statewide trainings, 2 of which were our new 16-hour Essential Skills for Training course that was created earlier this year. We've had 410 people attend our statewide trainings, with 65 of the total providers being represented. So one of the remaining sessions that we have throughout the remainder of the calendar year is an introduction of our newly developed 8-hour course focused on management development. And this is to coincide with our transition into our 2020 strategic plan with the misdemeanor probation industry. And then finally, we have sent out, or I have sent out, the provider survey, and I look forward to sharing those results with you in the next board meeting. So, any further questions? We're working on it.
Thank you. Thank you for your report. All right. Next item on our agenda is old business. I don't have anything for the old business. Anyone else? All All right, so on to new business. We have to elect the board chair for, I guess, the remainder of this year and for next year. So do we have any nominations for chair?
I'll make a motion to nominate Sonia Fillingham as new chair for DCS.
I'll second that.
All right, so we have a motion and a second.
Thank you.
You're willing to serve.
I am willing, it's an honor to serve. It's an honor to serve.
We appreciate that. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Awesome, thank you so much. That's all we have to do.
That's it.
Yes, sir. Good. All right, I have nothing else on my agenda.
That was the only position?
No,
I'm sorry.
that was it for chairman,
Okay.
but I believe for secretary.
Okay.
I move to nominate Michael Terrell that he may remain in his seat as secretary. I think he's done a great job for
I'll
us.
second that.
Thank you, thank you. We have a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That carries as well, thank you. With that, I think that concludes all of our business for today. Anything else, Mr. Mill?
No, congratulations, Sonia, as
Thank
well
you.
as.
Thank you
as
for your
Michael,
willingness.
As well as to the entire board.
Thank you.
Appreciate it, everyone.
Thank you for your support.
For that, we're adjourned. Thank y'all.